Good day everyone, have a wonderful and a lovely day to all my classmates. Good morning also to you, Doc. So our group will be discussing human nature and existence, and we will be sharing with you the different views and opinions of the philosophers who are known as existentialists. The nature of existentialist thought and manner. Philosophers who are concerned with this discipline is very much critical about their existence, about the real meaning of life. They believe that there's a purpose why we are here on earth, and they might have asked questions like, why am I here? Why do I exist? What is my purpose in life? And what is my essence? Existence is always particular and individual. Existence is primarily the problem of existence, although the investigation of the meaning of being. The investigation is continually faced with diverse possibilities, from among which the existent must make a selection to which he must commit himself. Because those possibilities are constituted by the individual's relationship with things and with other humans, existence is always a being in the world. Before we share to you the different views of these 9 key philosophers here, I would like to give you first the meaning or the definition of existentialism. Existentialism is a philosophical movement formally initiated by a Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard in the second half of the 19th century. It was then later developed and popularized by the famous French existentialist during the post-war period, no other than Jean-Paul Sartree. So what is existentialism? What is its characteristics? From the root word existence means the philosophy of life. The philosophy of the meaning of life stresses the individual's unique position as a self-determining agent for making meaningful, authentic choices. So the concern of this existentialism is mainly on the individual's existence, freedom, and choice. What an individual wants about his life. So we have 9 key philosophers here. We have Jean-Paul Sartre, Søren Kierkegaard, Martin Heidegger, Karl Jaspers, Viktor Frankl, John Stuart Mill, Jeremy Bentham, David Hume, and Friedrich Nietzsche. So let's begin with Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre is a French philosopher and principal spokesman for the existentialist movement in the post-war in France. He is an atheist, which means that he doesn't believe in God. So arguably the best known philosopher of the 20th century. He believed that human existence is the result of chance or accident. So there is no meaning or purpose for our lives other than what our freedom creates. Therefore, we must rely on our own resources. So that is his view. He also taught that existence manifests itself in the choice of actions, anxiety, and freedom of the will. In this way, the responsibility of building one's future is in one's hands, but the future is uncertain, and so one has no escape from the anxiety and despair. He also added that we are always under the shadow of anxiety. Higher responsibility leads to higher anxiety. The pursuit of being leads to an awareness of nothingness, nothingness to an awareness of freedom, freedom to bad faith, and bad faith to the being of consciousness, which provides the condition of this possibility. He said that man is condemned to be free because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. Man's existence precedes his sin. So he said that every man is born as many men and dies as a single one. Our next philosopher here is Søren Kierkegaard. Regarded as the father of modern existentialism, the first European philosopher who bears the term existentialist label. Kierkegaard's theory of the spheres of existence, the question of human existence, is the focal point of all of Kierkegaard's thought. Existing meant becoming more and more individual, but this is not given to all human beings in the same measure because we may be living in an inauthentic way. The fact that someone belongs to the species Homo sapiens or the thinking animals does not guarantee that the person leads a human existence. In fact, Kierkegaard seems to think that few people, or at least a minority of people, genuinely live as human beings. Existence is above all something that has to be shaped. People must make themselves if they want to be themselves. A man cannot evade this self-realization. That would be as impossible as evading oneself, very self rather, which is really the same thing as the self, is the same as self-realization. The self cannot be itself unless it is creating itself. So the fact that people have to form themselves means that human existence is a task. For him, human existence is always individual in character and never social. He also added that an individual cannot realize his authenticity until he withdraws himself from this worldly background. Our next philosopher is Martin Heidegger. He is a German philosopher, father of existential phenomenology. He is the author of Sein and Zeit, or Being and Time. For him, a human being should instead be conceived as Dasein means existence, also literally means being there, using it as a replacement for consciousness and mind, intended to suggest that a human being is in the world in the mood of uncovering, and is thus disclosing other entities as well as itself. Dasein is, in the other words, the there or the locus of being, and thus the metaphorical place where entities show themselves as what they are. Instead of being sealed off within a specially designed compartment within a human being, the function that have been misdescribed as mental now become the defining characteristics of human existence. Every man is born as many men and dies as single man, according to Martin Heidegger. The next philosopher is Karl Jaspers. He is a contemporary of Sartree and Camus. He is concerned with human reactions to extreme situations. It is the work of Jaspers that the seed sown from Kierkegaard and Nietzsche first grew into existentialism, including Walter Kaufmann. For him, existence philosophy is the way of thought by which a man seeks to become himself. The attainment of human existence is possible when he or she is seen as a whole or as encompassing. Human can be encompassing when he or she sees herself as an existent being, as a conscious being, as a spirit and existence. A human being is more than he knows about himself, according to Karl Jaspers. So the next philosopher is Viktor Frankl. He developed the logotherapy theory. It is founded on the belief that human nature is motivated by the search for aligning some task. Second, by experiencing something fully or loving somebody. Third, by the attitude that one adopts towards unavoidable suffering. So the next is John Stuart Mill. His ethical theory is most extensive, articulated in his classical text Utilitarianism in 1861. His theory focuses on consequences of actions and not on the rights or ethical sentiments. Utilitarianism, principle of utility, also known as the greatest happiness principle. An action is right to the extent that it increases the total happiness of the affected parties. An action is wrong to the extent that it decreases the total happiness of the affected parties. Happiness may have many definitions, such as advantage, benefit, good, or pleasure. Happiness can be measured in terms of pleasure and pain. There are qualitative differences among the distinct kinds of pleasure. Not all pleasures are the same, and they do not all produce the same amount of happiness. He also believed that happiness, not pleasure, should be the standard of utility. So the next one is Jeremy Bentham. According to him, that behavior can be explained by reference to the two primary motives of pleasure and pain. And this is called the theory of psychological hedonism. So psychological hedonism is the view that all human action is ultimately motivated by desires for pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Pleasure and pain, therefore, serves not only as explanations for action, but they also define one's good. His moral theory was founded on the assumptions that it's the consequence of human actions that count in evaluating the merit, and that kind of consequences that matters for human happiness is just the achievement of pleasure and avoidance of pain. So utilitarianism is a theory of morality which advocates action that fosters happiness or pleasure and opposes action that causes unhappiness or harm. Utilitarianism would say that action is right if it results in the happiness of the greatest number of people. So what is utilitarianism? It is a theory of morality which advocates action that foster happiness or pleasure and opposes action that cause unhappiness or harm. When directed toward making social, economic, or political decisions, a utilitarian philosophy would aim for the betterment of the whole society. So, Bentham's theory focuses on the pleasure and pain. So, Bentham's basic assumption of human nature that people always seek pleasure and avoid pain to achieve happiness. And the next is David Hume. He is a naturalist. He believes that our beliefs and actions are the products of custom of habit. Since all of our scientific beliefs have exactly the same foundation, this account preserves the natural dignity of moral judgments. According to him, it is our feeling of sentiments that extends practical influence over human volition and action. He also claimed that the constant conjunction between having a motive, not reason, for acting and performing the action in question. Hence, with the same reliability that characterizes our belief in any causal relation. Therefore, feelings have the power to result in actions. And the last is Friedrich Nietzsche. He insists that there are no rules for human life, no absolute values, no certainties on which to rely on. If truth can be achieved and all, it can come only for an individual who purposely disregards everything that is traditionally taken to be important. Rejection traditional values, including religion. He claimed the exemplary human being must craft his own identity through self-realization and do without relying on anything transcending that life such as God or soul. Okay, those were the different opinions and views of the 9 philosophers that we have chosen in our discussion. And thank you very much for listening. God bless.